The studio lights blazed down on John Kennedy, a seasoned politician with a reputation for sharp wit and unyielding principles, as he sat across from the fiery woke host, Mia Torres. The air crackled with tension the moment Mia leaned forward, her voice cutting through the murmurs of the live audience like a blade. "Senator Kennedy, your policies are a relic of a bygone era. Do you really think you can stand here and defend them in 2025? The crowd gasped, phones already recording, expecting the usual political sparring. But what happened next would leave jaws dropped and hearts stirred, a moment that would echo far beyond the confines of the sleek New York City set. John, a man in his late 60s with silver hair and a face etched with the lines of a lifetime of service, adjusted his glasses and took a deep breath. He wasn't just a senator. He was a father, a widower, and a man who had buried his own dreams to fight for others. Mia, on the other hand, was a rising star in the media world, a young woman in her 30s with dark, cascading hair and a passion for social justice that sometimes bordered on zealotry. She had built her career on challenging the old guard, but tonight, she was about to meet her match in a way she never anticipated. The topic was a controversial new education bill, one that Mia claimed oppressed marginalized voices, while John argued it preserved fairness for all. The stage was set for a clash, but no one expected the emotional depth that would unfold. As Mia launched into her opening salvo, accusing John of ignoring the struggles of young people today, he sat quietly, his hands clasped, his eyes fixed on her with a calm that unnerved her. "You're out of touch, Senator," she pressed, her finger pointing accusingly. "These kids need representation, not your outdated rules." The audience murmured, some nodding, others shifting uncomfortably. John's silence stretched on, and for a moment, it seemed he might concede defeat. Then, he leaned forward, his voice steady but laced with an emotion that silenced the room. "Mia," he began, "I lost my daughter to a system that didn't listen. She was 16, brilliant, and full of dreams, but she fell through the cracks because no one cared enough to see her struggle. I've spent every day since fighting to make sure no other parent feels that pain." The confession hit like a thunderclap. Mia's expression faltered, her rehearsed arguments dissolving as John continued. He spoke of Sarah, his daughter, who had battled depression in a school that prioritized test scores over mental health. He recounted the late-night calls to counselors who never returned, the endless forms he filled out, and the day he found her note, simple words that read, "I tried." Tears welled in his eyes, and the audience leaned in, their phones forgotten as they hung on every word. Mia, who had lost her own brother to addiction years ago, felt a pang of recognition. Her tough exterior began to crack, but she pressed on, her voice softer now. "That's tragic, Senator, but how does your bill help? It cuts funding for diversity programs." John nodded, acknowledging her point, but then he turned the conversation personal. "Mia, I met a teacher last month, a single mom working 2 jobs to support her kids. She told me those diversity programs sound good on paper, but in her school, they're just more paperwork, more mandates, and less time to help kids like Sarah. My bill isn't perfect, but it's about giving her the freedom to teach, to listen, to see the child behind the label. I've sat with parents who've lost kids to overdoses, to violence, to despair. Diversity won't save them if we don't address the root." His voice broke, and for the first time, Mia didn't interrupt. The room held its breath. The challenge deepened as Mia, torn between her ideals and this raw human story, pushed back with data, statistics on minority graduation rates, studies on inclusive curricula. John didn't dismiss her. Instead, he pulled out his own notes, sharing stories of rural schools where teachers begged for basic supplies over ideological training. The debate shifted from a shouting match to a dialogue, each revealing vulnerabilities. Mia admitted her brother's death had fueled her crusade, a need to prove his life mattered. John confessed his bill was his way of redeeming his failure to save Sarah. The audience, many of whom had their own silent battles, felt the weight of their shared humanity. As the segment neared its end, a producer signaled for a commercial break, but neither moved. Mia, her eyes glistening, asked, "What would Sarah think of you now?" John paused, a faint smile breaking through his grief. "She'd tell me to keep fighting, but to listen too. Maybe we both need to do that." The words hung in the air, a bridge between their worlds. Mia nodded, extending a hand, and John took it. The live feed cut to black, but the moment had already ignited a firestorm online, clips of their exchange racking up millions of views by morning. In the days that followed, the story took on a life of its own. John and Mia collaborated on a revised bill, one that balanced teacher autonomy with targeted support for at-risk students. It wasn't a perfect solution, but it was a start, a testament to the power of empathy over ideology. John visited schools, sharing Sarah's story, while Mia hosted roundtables with educators and parents, her approach softened by a newfound humility. The audience, once divided, began to see themselves in the struggle, parents, teachers, and students united by a common goal. By the end of the month, the bill passed with bipartisan support, a rare victory in a polarized world. John stood at a press conference, his voice steady but emotional, dedicating it to Sarah and all the forgotten kids. Mia, standing beside him, spoke of her brother, vowing to keep pushing for change with compassion. The message was clear: healing begins when we listen, when we see each other's pain, and when we dare to bridge the divide. For the viewers who watched the 15-minute journey unfold, it wasn't just a political debate, it was a reminder that even in our deepest conflicts, there lies the potential for redemption and hope.